The stage was set for a showdown that promised sparks. On one side stood Senator John Kennedy, the blunt-tongued Republican known for his cutting, sarcasm, and unapologetic style. On the other sat Joy Behar, the outspoken liberal co-host of The View, famous for her fiery critiques and unwavering progressive beliefs. For weeks, Behar had taken aim at Kennedy's stances on crime, healthcare, and social justice, turning their upcoming meeting into one of the most anticipated political face-offs of the year. This wasn't just a TV interview, it was an ideological collision. Kennedy, the Southern conservative who had become a symbol of no-nonsense politics, was walking straight into what many saw as hostile territory. Behar, quick-witted and sharp-tongued, had no plans to pull punches. The key question was Kennedy's hard-edged approach to law enforcement, the economy, and national security, what the country truly needed. As the cameras rolled and the lights blazed, Kennedy took his seat with a grin that blended confidence and defiance. Before going on stage, he had told his team, "I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to talk sense to people, too wrapped up in their bubble to see reality." Behar wasted no time. Leaning in, she opened with, "Senator, you've made a career out of telling people what they want to hear. But let's talk real solutions. Your crime policies ignore the root problems: poverty, inequality, systemic injustice. You can't just lock people up and think that's progress." Kennedy listened silently, his expression unreadable. When it was his turn, his voice carried its familiar Southern edge. "Joy," he said with a smile, "you talk about solutions, but what you really mean is recycling ideas that have failed over and over. Meanwhile, people are living in fear because those ideas don't work. You're not fixing anything, you're making it worse." The audience hushed. Behar, momentarily taken aback, shot back, "So your plan is to keep filling prisons? That's not a solution. We need reform that prevents crime before it starts, not endless punishment after the fact." Kennedy countered without hesitation. "No, Joy. We need accountability. We need to protect the innocent, not coddle criminals. Safety first, ideology second." The back and forth grew sharper, drifting from policy into a cultural clash. Then came the moment that defined the night. Looking directly at Behar, Kennedy said, "You don't speak for America. America is tired of politicians worried about their image instead of solving real problems. You want fairness. How about fairness for the millions who are scared to walk their own streets?" The studio froze. Behar blinked, then fired back, "Oh, I don't speak for America. Let me tell you something. America's tired of men like you deciding what's best. You've got the microphone, but that doesn't mean you understand people's struggles." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Within hours, clips flooded social media. "You don't speak for America" trended nationwide, sparking a storm of takes from both sides. The next morning, the media machine roared to life. Conservative outlets praised Kennedy's courage, saying he'd exposed Behar's elitism. Liberal networks accused him of oversimplifying complex issues and feeding division. But the numbers told their own story. Kennedy's support surged among conservatives and moderates alike. At campaign headquarters in Baton Rouge, his team gathered. Ann Calloway, his campaign manager, set the tone. "That Behar moment is everywhere. We need to own it. Keep pushing our core themes: law and order, real solutions, safety for Americans." Kennedy was unmoved by critics. "I'm not apologizing for telling the truth. People are sick of being talked down to. I'm here for them, not for political correctness." Still, his team knew the challenge ahead. His blunt style thrilled his base but risked alienating the middle. The question was whether he could expand his appeal without softening his brand. As the weeks passed, the divide grew. Fox News hailed him as a voice of reason, unafraid to confront softened crime politics. MSNBC called him a dangerous divider who refused to acknowledge systemic inequality. His supporters rallied harder with every attack, while critics painted him as a relic of outdated policy. Recognizing he couldn't win as a single-issue candidate, Kennedy's advisors urged him to broaden his message. Soon, his speeches included not only crime policy, but also healthcare reform, job creation, and economic revitalization. In Detroit, he told a roaring crowd, "We face crime in our streets, jobs leaving our cities, and a broken healthcare system. We can fix it, but it's going to take tough decisions and bold leadership." He promised tax relief for small businesses, affordable care for working families, and, above all, safety for every neighborhood. The message was clear. Kennedy wasn't backing down from his land order stance, but he was building a broader platform. His path forward depended on convincing America that he wasn't just a fighter. He was a leader with a plan for the future. He wanted to prove he was more than just the tough-on-crime candidate. Kennedy aimed to show he was the leader who could deliver practical solutions to the nation's most urgent problems. In the weeks after his rally in Detroit, polling data painted a more complicated picture. Kennedy's support had climbed among conservative voters, but the general election was still far off. While his base was energized, he still had ground to cover with moderates and swing voters wary of his combative style. Meanwhile, Newsom numbers held steady, buoyed by progressives drawn to his vision of a more inclusive America. His reform-focused message remained powerful, but Kennedy's emphasis on practical fixes was beginning to gain traction in key swing states. Kennedy's core message is simple. One political analyst said, "Get crime under control, revive the economy, and make America safe again." Newsom speaks about the future, but Kennedy offers solutions for right now. As the election drew closer, Kennedy knew the real contest had just begun. The challenge was finding the right balance, maintaining his strong stance on public safety, while broadening his platform to include jobs, healthcare, and education. "We pivot by showing people we're here to fix everything that's broken," he told his team. "Crime, yes, but also healthcare, jobs, and schools. And we'll bring Americans together, not drive them apart." The campaign got to work, preparing a major rally in Pennsylvania, a state now central to the race. In the Rust Belt, where working-class voters felt ignored by Washington, Kennedy needed to show he was more than a blunt-talking politician. When he stepped to the podium, the crowd was already electric. "America is at a crossroads," he began. "We've been told we must choose between safety and freedom, between law and reform. I'm here to say we can have both." He laid out his plans to improve the justice system, invest in education, expand healthcare access, and create well-paying jobs. The reaction was explosive. Kennedy's most complete vision yet. And it was winning over more than just his base. Within days, polls showed him gaining ground in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Moderates and undecided voters were starting to see him as a viable choice. "He's showing he can solve the problems that matter most," one analyst noted. Still, media criticism persisted, especially from progressive outlets that saw his rhetoric as divisive and outdated. Kennedy remained unfazed. "We're not here to play games. We're here to solve problems, and we're not backing down." As the race tightened, Kennedy focused his final message on unity and action. His ads promised to restore safety, revive jobs, and ensure affordable healthcare for all. The viral clashes of earlier months were now background noise. His campaign was zeroed in on substance. With polls in battleground states showing razor-thin margins, Kennedy knew moderates and independents would decide the outcome. His campaign manager Ann Callaway summed it up. "Crime, jobs, healthcare, those are the priorities. Kennedy has real answers, not just talk." The first presidential debate with Newsom was pivotal. Newsom championed criminal justice reform and climate action, presenting himself as a fresh, progressive alternative. Kennedy hit back hard. "You can't fix a broken system by letting criminals off the hook. We need accountability to restore order." The exchanges grew heated until Kennedy delivered the moment that would define the night. In response to Newsom's charge that America didn't need more authoritarianism, Kennedy replied calmly, "What we need is leadership that restores faith. America doesn't need another politician with a polished speech. It needs someone who will act." The silence in the room told the story. Even critics acknowledged that Kennedy's directness had landed. Conservatives hailed it as a debate win. Progressives dismissed it as more of the same. But for voters exhausted by partisan extremes, Kennedy's middle ground approach was starting to look appealing. In the final stretch, his numbers surged. Independents, moderate Republicans, and even some disillusioned Democrats saw him as the practical choice. At a rally in Florida, he told supporters, "We're closer than we've ever been. The American people are ready for a leader who puts them first. I'm ready to lead that charge."